Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome into the Guilty as Charged podcast. We're coming to you live from Regina, Canada. Excuse me. Almost had a really clean delivery there. That was awful. I leave the funniness to Alex and Tyler for that very reason. But it's all good. Joining me as always, like I said, Alex and Tyler. Alex, we'll start with you, man. We got the Jalen Guyton bump. We spoke it into existence. He had a fantastic day today. And how are you doing, man?
Yeah, I think I really kicked the storm up in Jalen Guyton's system because, ever since he said it was a crude question when I asked about the drops, he has, 4 receptions for 90 yards, 6 receptions for 90 yards. I wasn't counting, but the touchdown nearly had 2 touchdowns. So we had the Guyton game, and I'm taking credit for it, in addition to Jalen's fantastic work.
As we should. We got Steven Anderson, on before training camp. Nobody really thought he had a significant chance of making the roster. He ended up doing that. We had Larry Roundtree on before he scored his first touchdown. The next time he played, he scored his first touchdown. Now we have Jalen Guyton. So the guilty as charged bump is real. Now we just need to get like Jerry Tillery or Kenneth Murray on here, and then we'll be good.
I don't know if the bump's that powerful.
Yeah, I don't think we're that powerful. Come on, man. Whoa.
Tyler, Mr. Wagina over here. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing very well. The whole broadcast and everything, the refs were absolutely terrible today. It was so rough to watch. If we were a loss, I would have probably turned my TV off. But because they were winning, I stuck with it. And boy, am I glad, because we got Regina College, and apologies for the delay, and Chris Harris getting an interception and it being called a touchdown, which I wouldn't put it past Harris to have an interception turn into a touchdown like that. It was very entertaining, to say the least. I'm very happy that they won. Obviously, we didn't expect it, and they did, so couldn't be happier.
Yeah, absolutely. We had a few things happen today that I can confidently say I've never seen. I have truly never seen a wedding picture photo session happening during an NFL broadcast. That happened. I have never in my life heard an NFL referee apologize for being bad at his job in the middle of the game. And then I've never seen an interception called for a touchdown at first glance, and then it's called for an interception. Just a wild, wild day for everybody involved. And we even got a Wayne Gretzky comparison by Charles Davis.
Oh, jeez.
I happen to like Charles Davis a lot, but that was rather weird.
Yes, I like to think Justin Herbert is Jesus Christ. And, like, what are we doing? Wayne Gretzky? Give Burrow a few more years. Maybe Brady's Wayne Gretzky or something. Not Burrow.
Yeah, absolutely. Just very weird. Alex got to watch the game on a bit of a delay. Was it a little odd watching that game after, I think you started watching like right during the third quarter, right?
I started watching when it was 24-16, I think, around in the game. But I sort of knew what the score was at the end while I was watching most of the third and fourth quarters. So, it was less stressful than it was for you guys. I imagine I was shitting much less when it was 24-22 for that particular reason.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was a wild game nonetheless. Rich E, shout out to him. First super chat of the day. We have a bunch of stuff to cover, and before we get there, I have to give a shout out to TickPick, who is the official ticketing partner of the Guilty as Charged podcast. You can use the link tickpick.com/charge for a $10 discount on your first purchase. As you can see, if you're watching this on YouTube, my University of Utah is going to the Rose Bowl. I use TickPick to buy tickets to that game. It's a big bowl season coming up, home stretch of the NFL season. And this is a great time to go and use that $10 discount. So happy to have that for sure. All right, let's dive into the specifics of this game. Obviously, the Chargers beat the Bengals 41-22. Tyler, I want to start with you because you talked on Thursday about the defense and the defense needing to step up, and somebody besides Joey Bosa, Derwin James, and Kaiser White needing to be great. We didn't even have Joey Bosa for very long. I think he played the first 2 series. And we had a bunch of people step up today. So who or what kind of stood out while you were watching the defense perform today?
Yeah, first out, shout out the Chargers for understanding Joey Bosa's concussion history and how awful those have been for him. I know not every concussion is the same, but he's talked about how hard it was for him, how he stayed in his room for weeks basically. Yeah. And so even though he was cleared of a concussion, they understood the situation and their player. And look, the Chargers could have lost this game and been out of the AFC playoff picture. But even in that moment, with everything kind of on the line this game, they decided to do the best thing they could for Joey Bosa, which was to have him sit. And they obviously won, so that's great. But the game is more important than just this game. It's about his life, the rest of his life. And so, risking him for another hit or symptoms got worse, not worth it. So kudos to the Chargers for making a very difficult right decision. But yeah, like I said, I wanted someone to step up, and it was a couple of individual plays, but also a really solid game from Nwosu, the first 2-sack game of his career. Rumph got his sack. Tillery made some plays. James blitz. Fackrell had some hits. 9 different players as of right now had a pressure. James, Adderley, and Mosu Fackrell, I guess, each had 2. But Trinkle sack, James and Adderley have a split sack. Jones has a sack, and Mosu has 2 sacks. Rumph has a sack, and Mixon had 2.8 yards per carry. And it felt like that. Like, it didn't feel like there were, a couple of big, 30-yard runs or whatever. Like, everyone felt like 2 yards, 3 yards, 2 yards, -2, -1, 0 yards. He really had to fight and earn that. And the Chargers really did a good job. So, overall, we can talk about the defensive line rotation. I think that was something very interesting. But I'm very happy with everyone stepping up in different ways. And again, a huge game from Nwosu, because it wasn't just that he needed to have a good game opposite of Joey Bosa. He needed to have it in Bosa's absence, and he did. He stepped up in big moments. Right now he's only credited with 2 pressures. I think that's going to change quite a bit. Things just, it's very fluid as we head into tomorrow when the official stats come out. But a very big game from him without Joey Bosa, which we really needed to see.
Yeah, I think we'll see Nwosu get up to 6 or 7. I'd be pretty surprised if it wasn't at least 6. He was fantastic today. This was by far, the best game of his career. Daniel Hopper. I'm reading a comment from Anthony Hopper at the moment. Daniel Popper tweeted out that this was his first multi-sack game of his career, and they needed every second of that performance by him. I thought he. We've been saying that he's been rushing well, and he looks good on tape, and his ESPN pass rush win rate numbers are really good, but it just hasn't really been turning into production. And that strip sack fumble on Joe Burrow to start the game really set the tone for this defense. We said on Thursday that the one window of opportunity for this team was if they could get after Joe Burrow, and it did. Brandon Staley threw some great blitzes at him, including a double safety blitz from Adderley and Derwin James, which was just awesome. I cannot wait to watch that. But it was really Nwosu who really set the tone from the get-go and getting that strip sack on Joe Burrow, and it really had a fantastic day. Chris Rumph, too, getting his first sack of his career. And he played a lot more than I thought he did. So edge rushers in particular, I thought, had a really fantastic day. Staley called up some really good blitzes, and they heated up Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I think they heated up Joe Burrow. We sort of talked about before the game that the best run defense for the Chargers was getting up 2 touchdowns, and they got up 24 points. So that is, in a sense, what shut Mixon out of the game for large stretches. But the run defense also did play very well, especially in absence of Joey Bosa when we talk about the edge guys, but also the interior. Justin Jones, while he was in the game, fortunately gets injured. He played well. You had all Kaiser White and Drew Tranquil, I think, at that second level playing very well too. And then you have your interior defensive line guys that I thought did really good. Christian Covington, kind of a sneaky good performance because he combines with Derwin James on that 2-point conversion stop, then sort of forces that fumble on the Tavon Campbell return, or at least had an impact on that play. So for me, he did pretty well. And then you've really had everyone else play decent. Jerry Tillery, even a couple of good pressures, not too bad. I think he had a QB hit too. So to me, this was when everyone really needed to step up. I thought everyone kind of did on the defensive line, and it was really impressive. Obviously, the secondary, I thought it was kind of so-so this game, but ultimately they got the turnovers they needed when they needed them the most. And the defensive line played significantly better than we had seen them in the last couple of weeks. Part of that is Cincinnati's O-line, but I do think you have to give them pressure, give the Chargers credit here, because the Chargers have played up banged up O-lines before and haven't had as much success nearly as they did today. You can kind of look at the Dallas game as an example of that. So I would just say that, I thought the whole defense really balled out today. And we talked about Staley mixing up looks and throwing them stuff like Adderley and Derwin James safety blitzes. That's the kind of stuff that they need. And I think they need to get creative sort of due to a lack of talent at some parts of the defense, or at least a lack of depth. And this was a really dig deep performance from everybody today, everyone who's on the field and everyone who was scheming off of it.
Yeah, absolutely agree there. And they didn't have a choice. Like they had to rotate the defensive line today. Linval Joseph is not playing. Justin Jones goes out in the second quarter. So they didn't have a choice. They had to play those players. They had to give Gaziano and Fehoko more snaps. I think Arjun told us that Gaziano played 27 snaps, if I'm not mistaken. And I thought he looked pretty good. I'm excited to watch the tape to see how those two played. But if you would have told me heading into this game that we'd be watching the Chargers defense in the second half without Bosa, without Linval Joseph, without Justin Jones, I would have assumed that Joe Mixon would have had 120 easily. And so to hold him under 60, to hold him to 2.8 yards per carry on 19 attempts, like that is to me like the storyline of the day, along with the defensive pressures. This defensive line as a whole just really stepped up. And like I said, can't wait to watch the all 22 to see how Fehoko, Gaziano, Covington looked great. I mean, I jokingly said like in the second quarter, like, hey, look, there's Jerry Tiller's one good rep of the day. And he had a few really good plays. So this defensive group, along with Kaiser White, yes, golf clap for Jerry Tillery today. I thought Kaiser White played really well. I thought Drew Tranquil played really well. The front seven as a whole really did their jobs. And to me, this was the first time that we've seen the front seven, really kind of play cohesively. Pass rush was really clicking. Run defense was playing well. So I think that really is kind of the story of the day for me.
Yeah, because even with the say against the Vikings, where they did stop the run generally, they still had 17 missed tackles or whatever else. Like it just wasn't perfect enough. And this game, the front seven really did an excellent job this game. And thankfully, Murray was taking Rump's edge snaps. Again, that's something we were concerned about, and he was taking them, but also Bosa goes out, Rump comes in, Rump shows out. So I really think they need to explore that moving forward, just like their interior defensive line rotation. Like get him on the field, stop taking him off the field. I get it's one game, but you see flashes there, and there's just some energy, young blood, whatever you want to call it. They got to get him on the field more.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's a similar thing with the running backs, right? Like you need, as a pass rusher, you need to get into that rhythm. And so, Chris Rump, getting 3-4 snaps here, it's like, okay, like what is that really doing for him? And he had that second quarterback hit on Burrow, which I think was a stunt, but it's just really good to see him out there playing hard. I was surprised, frankly, that it wasn't Fackrell playing most of the snaps, but Rump played really well.
Yeah, I thought he played really well, provided some much needed kind of energy on that edge, particularly without Bosa there. So I thought he did really well. 3 quarterback hits, 1 sack, and 5 total tackles. So overall in the day, I mean, if we're talking about him versus Murray and that kind of edge roll, like I'm going with Chris Rump. I know it's only one game, but the Bengals tackles were generally speaking better this game, I would say, than their interior line, which gave them a lot of those problems. Particularly, I mean, Riley Rife and Williams are generally better than the guys that they have on the interior, like I talked about in the preview episode. So I thought that really the edges kind of balled out this game. I mean, Uchenna Nwosu was just huge. That's easily the best game of his career. He was just coming out with his hair on fire every play. And just kind of having his way over there. So, I thought it was really impressive. I think the kind of rotations and everything they did help them. And I think they needed that sort of after Joey Bosa left this game. But even when Joey Bosa does return, I would like to see that more creativity and personnel shifting, going forward, just to get guys those opportunities, or at least the guys that are showing out on defense the most.
Yeah, I think they only had like 2 blitzes that really didn't work out in their favor. Every other one, Adderley had a blitz early and he hit home. Kaiser White had a blitz, I think, where he hit home at least, caused the pressure. Tranquil had a sack. Derwin James had a sack. So it really was, just a really good game plan from Brandon Staley. And, we've seen a couple people mention this already, but, Kenneth Murray not really kind of involved in this game plan. Even when Joey Bosa goes out, he really didn't play extended snaps until like those last 2 drives when they put in some of their backups. So just is like it just kind of sucks, man. Like I'm sitting here watching Denzel Perryman ball out for the Raiders, except he just got injured, I think. And you have Kaiser White, Drew Tranquil playing well. And it just kind of sucks that there's not really a place for Kenneth Murray. But at the same time, like, he just is not playing very well.
Yes, I'm going to ask, is Murray in bust territory? I mean, kind of getting close. Unfortunately, the guys are like, there's a fourth round pick who was edge, who is a better edge than him. There's blitzers on the team at linebacker who are better than him. There are linebackers on the team that are better in coverage than him. And there are linebackers on the team that are making more run stops and actually tackling the football or the football carrier more than he is. So I don't even know if he's necessarily a bust. It's close. Wow, he played only 5 snaps this game. Wow, Archie just pointed out he only played 5 snaps.
That's wild.
And it's not like they, it's not like the Bengals weren't on the field. They were on the field a lot, running it, throwing it, whatever. And they only had 5 snaps. Wow, that's a big deal.
I think you kind of, we'll talk about this in the offseason, but I feel like you kind of have to trade him at this point.
Yeah, you're definitely bringing back Kaiser White, and you don't need Murray. Like, he's not even your rotating back. It's Neiman or Ogbongbemiga, who Ogbongbemiga had a great day on special teams. Yeah, there's no need. I kind of talked about trading him really early in the season. That was very premature. But at this point, you got to move on for something.
No, yeah, I give you credit. We were talking before that Ravens game. I was like, oh, well, Neiman balls out, is Murray gone? And I'm like, well, I don't know about that. But now we're kind of here. It's not where I want to be, because I think Kenneth Murray, you want him to work out as a former first-round pick. But right now, it's just, it ain't happening.
It's not happening, which, it's just unfortunate. So, to continue the defensive theme here, what did you guys make of the secondary? Because obviously Chris Harris had the interception. Credit to him. He made a very good play. I thought it was funny that when after he got the interception, he initially thought of like running all the way to the opposite end zone to celebrate. And then he was like, oh shit, that's 100 yards the other way. I'm just going to celebrate right here. But what did you guys make of the secondary in general? Obviously Joe Burrow's finger injury kind of limited what they were able to do down the field. But Alex, what do you think of the secondary, the way they played today?
Michael Davis kind of got low-key torched for large portions of this game. It's funny because the one interception he had was he got beat.
It was such a lucky play.
It was such a lucky play, but it was an athletic play with the one hand. I give credit to him for that at least. But yeah, Jamar Chase was giving him problems. At the same time, Jamar Chase gives a lot of people problems, as he has been all season. So, I would just say, it felt like watching him that Michael Davis just looked a step slow, and he doesn't normally look that way on defense. So I didn't think he was great. Tavon Campbell had a couple, confusing moments, but I thought, he played okay. I don't know. It wasn't great. I didn't think Davis was great either. Weirdly enough, I feel like we're talking about Chris Harris as the best player in the secondary today. Or at least when we talk about the cornerbacks, obviously not with Derwin James and the safety group, but he kind of showed out. Obviously gets the interception late, but I don't really remember him getting burnt a lot in this game, really at all. So I thought Chris Harris stepped up pretty nicely.
Yeah, listen, I'll have to go back and watch. It's so hard to tell because the only time I see Harris is when he's complaining and like he gave up something, or then you just don't see him, which is good. Like the fact that you weren't seeing him was probably a good thing, but I don't know if he had a good game or not. I think someone mentioned on the strip sack that someone was Jamar Chase was wide open for a touchdown.
Yeah,
and Mosley got that strip sack, and I don't know what happened. Maybe it was Chris Harris, maybe it was Campbell, it was Davis. I don't know. I do feel like Davis had a couple of plays as the game went on, like he started to be a little bit better. But then again, Joe Burrow had a messed up pinky. And I think the day could have been worse if it weren't for that pinky. There's a couple you just could tell like he was willing some plays there, but some were just kind of off. I don't know if that changes things, but they didn't have a great game. Now they faced a gauntlet of receivers. Like the Steelers have good receivers, the Broncos have good receivers, the Vikings obviously have good receivers, but they just continued to not be a strength of this team. And I'm not saying Samuel Jr. is cornerback 1, but they really miss another corner, and he could be working his way to corner 1. Honestly, like just him not being there makes it seem like he should be corner 1 because he's kind of the only guy making plays on the football. You'll take him peeking into the backfield and getting beaten by Johnson, whoever it was, or Claypool, because he'll also have 3 passes defended that game. No one else is really doing that. And but Davis I've never seen that before. I've never seen a person get burned that bad and end up with an interception off of a dropped pass that but craziest thing. So not a great performance from the secondary, but congrats, Chris Harris Jr. The last 2 weeks, I haven't really seen you, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, there were a couple times where Tyler Boyd got him, but I mean, Tyler Boyd's really solid. And the Joe Burrow injury definitely limited him, right? Like he just didn't have the same kind of velocity. He said it happened on the Nwosu strip sack, so he played the entire game essentially with a dislocated pinky, and you could really tell that he was frustrated by it. And honestly, like I came to respect him a lot more today because just the way that he was playing through that. It was fun to watch. Dan Orlovsky saying that he played better than Herbert is absolute bullshit,
dude. What? Not even just better. Like you want to say he's better. That's like you say he played better. Okay, but a lot better than Justin Herbert, who had like 9 incompletions. And then, whatever he had. What was Herbert's stat line? So it was, and a good stats are and everything. But yeah, 9 incompletion, 317 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. That was basically just a punt throw.
Yeah,
come on, man. A lot better. Than Justin Herbert. That's such crap.
A lot of frankly, we did win this election vibes from Dan Orlovsky.
It's just so funny to me. Like if you're gonna say like I was just saying, like I really respect the way that he battled through this injury, but
100%.
Like he played better. Like didn't he have 2 turnovers? Like what are we doing here? He barely pushed the ball down the field. So it just is funny to me how people like push narratives that they like to choose to push. So shout out to Dane Cannon, first time tuning into the live stream. Thanks for your donation here. Super chat's always appreciated. Let's shift gears and talk about this offense because it was a very up and down, inconsistent performance from the offense. We've seen this, but they did end up putting 34 points on the board. Obviously the Tavon Campbell does not really count for them, but 41 points as a whole. We see this team roar out to this 24-0 start in part because the offense is really cooking. And I know everybody on Twitter was like, wow, what happened to Joe Lombardi? Like, what's going on? These are the same play calls that they've been calling. Like, we're seeing these on film that they are consistently popping up. But for whatever reason, Justin Herbert just came out with his head on fire. I think he was just really mad at the way he played, and credit to him. He was connecting on those deep balls to Jalen Guyton that were open. He was connecting to Mike Williams. And this was really, I think when you're talking specifically about like the 3 receivers, like this is what we pictured as like the best case scenario. You have Guyton taking the top off the field. Yeah. You have Mike Williams jump balls. You have Keenan Allen working the overs and the slots and the slants and everything. So I thought the first quarter and the fourth quarter were really kind of what we all pictured as like the best case for this offense. Second quarter, third quarter was kind of a mess though. Go ahead, Tyler.
All right. So a couple of things. I liked a couple of plays that they had where they were playing off the tendencies of what they had shown before on film. They did that against the Steelers when they had that screen to Parham. But also this one, there was one where I thought they were going right to Keenan Allen on some sort of I think he was doing like a around the world or whatever the hell that's called, where he like rotates in, goes for a swing pass, but they ended up going to Eckler instead. And there was another one where Keenan Allen was on like a wheel. And then Herbert missed him, but they were going to different things that they had shown before, which is good. The offense continues to add these things, these looks, which is great. As far as the offense, the offense was pushing it last week. Like, I'm sure the plays were different, don't get me wrong, but the general philosophy I think was there because Herbert, like this game, he slung it, and sometimes it didn't work out. Sometimes it got picked off or dropped, but he's just going after anyone, on the air, on the throw to Guyton, which was an underthrow, but it was 62 air yards or whatever it was. But that was to Guyton and against Jesse Bates. And I talked about him needing to target safeties. And it didn't look like Herbert was afraid of making those throws. In general, he let it loose. And if he can grow from there, I think that the good things are on the way. Because if you think of the Steelers game, he has a couple runs before that game and leading up into that game. But after that game, he's looking to run a lot more. And that's not always great, but he's starting to feel more confident running more, for better or worse. And now I think he's starting to feel more confident. It feels weird because last year he had no problem doing this, but now he's feel confident, letting things loose. And if Guyton can win jump balls like that, and if Williams can hang on, and make sideline catches, you could see him start to take those shots more, especially to Guyton. Like Guyton being, a really big fourth down play last week, a couple of really big plays this week, including the touchdown. Have got a defensive pass interference on him. It's still out jumping, out muscling that ball from Jesse Bates, who was, I think, Pro Football Focus, but like their highest graded safety last season. Like that's a good safety. He just beat for a jump ball.
Right.
So, like I said, the last week, the aggressive shots were there last week, way more than I thought they would. They continue to do that, keep the pedal to the floor. And then just in general, their aggressiveness on first down in the opening parts of their drive. So, they passed deep on their first drive. They passed a score on fourth down. They were up 20. Let's see, they were up 24-0. And the first plays of each drive after that, up 24-0. First plays of each drive were pass, 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 and then run because they were up 16 and the game was basically over. So they had every opportunity to go, we'll just run it. We have all of our running backs activated, which is the other thing. And, Filer was back. And they could have been, we're up 24-0. Let's just run the ball more. But no, pass, 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 pass. I mean, 6 straight drives opening with a pass. I love it. And so I think it was a really good game plan and just an extension of what they were doing last week. They could have folded at any point. And the Bengals were a good defense, and they didn't. They had execution errors. Fumbling the ball twice from Eckler is not good. But in general, the philosophy I really liked. They were pushing it just like they were trying to do last week, except this time Herbert had that confidence to make those throws, some good, some bad. But it was a good game overall.
It reminded me of sort of a version of the Eagles game, I would say, but you just saw guys complete on more of those opportunities. Obviously, there were a lot of RPOs today, which I like. And obviously, you can run more RPOs when Matt Filer is on the field as opposed to Senio Clemente, who, Tyler willed into being inactive today on our pregame show.
Shout out to Tyler.
Congrats to him. I just thought the offense looked a lot more fluid today, and we talked about Herbert kind of looking for those matchups, whether it was with Jesse Bates or he saw Williams on Hilton and just was like, I'm gonna go there pretty much like every time he was on him. So I thought that was fun to watch. I thought that this was a really good Herbert game. I think there were ones he would like to have back, probably that throw towards the end of the first half. But kind of ended up just being a punt. I think he might have liked to have that one back, so the Chargers could have gotten another score out of that. But other than that, I thought he played really clean today, and it was really impressive after last week, which I thought was probably his worst game of the season, to go on the road and have this performance against this Bengals defense, which had been playing very well in recent weeks. I just thought was really impressive of him, especially with the kind of caliber secondary he was going against.
Yeah, absolutely. Brandon Staley said after the game that they felt like they had better matchups on the outside or in the passing game specifically than running the football because Popper asked him about, skewing so heavily towards the passing game. And, he said it was a matchup thing. So if that's the matchup thing, please do that every single week. I think this team, it's really unfortunate the way they cannot run the ball consistently. Part of that is not having a consistent second back. Austin Eckler did get injured at the end of the game, so we'll have to keep an eye on that one. But for the most part, I thought the offensive game plan was really, really solid. A lot of people were getting mad about the screen plays, but you have Justin Herbert gets sacked on back-to-back plays, and it's like, what do you want them to do on 3rd and 25? Like, you're not going to convert every single 3rd and 25. So I was fine with the screen plays. It's a good way to mix it up generally. But I said, I think the first quarter in particular really gives you a window into what this offense really actually could look like and wants to do. We've all heard the clips of we want to throw that fucker down the field. This is what they want to do. It's just in other instances, they don't have the protection because Senio Clemente's in, or they misrun a route, or Justin Herbert misses on the throw, or whatever the case may be. But that first quarter is the best looking version of this offense. And I think ultimately, they did just enough to get the game done and taken care of.
I would also just say screens are good. Screens are a good thing, and you should use them more because what the Chargers had kind of been going to is this offense where everything has to be timing based and we have to hit on this play at this moment. It's no, what if you just throw it over there and mix it up sometimes? A wide receiver screen or a running back screen to me isn't a bad idea if it's an easy pickup of a couple of yards here and there, right? So to me, I think what this game demonstrated is that the Chargers can work on their timing and have all of those kind of complex plays that Lombardi likes to run, and also have easy offense to balance it out. So that's to me what this game kind of represented.
Yeah, and I think one last thing to add about the offensive game plan, people were very unhappy with that Guyton run, which went for -1. And occasionally, like those things maybe don't work, but they up until that point on first down, were averaging 7 yards per carry on that play with Guyton or Roberts. So it's like if you're calling a play on first down like you have been, and it averages 7 yards, and in going into that game, I think they were averaging 5.5 yards per play in the last 2 attempts at it. Why not call it? So people are very frustrated with that because it didn't work, but it has been working for them, particularly on first down.
Yeah, no one's allowed to be mad at Jalen Guyton today. He is a king.
He is. But, I think when we're talking about, criticizing or praising play calling, it's all about the process instead of the results. Like when you, gosh, excuse me. When you can't really run the ball like they couldn't today, doing end around, jet sweeps, whatever you want to call it, that's a good process by Joe Lombardi. I would have loved to see it happen more than the one time, because it stretches the defense horizontally when you're not able to really do that with your traditional running game. So if anything, you want to see them more. And Ian Alexander, the Philly special, man, the 2-point conversion, that was so cool. Like, I loved to see that. Justin Herbert was so fired up after catching that 2-point conversion. Brandon Staley said, I think on Wednesday, he was asked about trick plays, and he was like, yeah, we want to do that more often. And they finally did something cool in terms of trick plays. And it was really fun to watch. Keenan Allen had a really solid pass. So love that play call.
That, and the last time we saw that call, if I'm not mistaken, was against the Bengals, but the Jets did it. So a little bit of prep there.
They did it to Mike White in that game?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, I remember that now. Okay, yeah. It was fun to see the Philly special for obvious reasons, considering nostalgia. Love Doug Peterson, and Gardner Minshew is the quarterback of my team now. So, yeah.
Okay, apparently the Raiders have the ball down 2 with 41 seconds left. So hope the Washington can pull that out. How about the Washington fan base, man? Showing out in Las Vegas. I never would have expected.
I never would have guessed
a Washington fan base to show up to Las Vegas like that, but Allegiant Stadium was pure red this weekend, so love to see it.
Where are the fans? Like, what? I don't think do I know a Washington football team fan? Granted, I'm not in Vegas, but like, I don't know anybody who's a Washington football team fan. And to see thousands of them in an era where their team's really not that good and their owners potentially or is a piece of shit, I'm surprised there are that many fans.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's a lot of local DC fans who are just like, hey, it's fucking freezing here. Can we go to Vegas for the weekend? And yeah, that's what happened. But there's not a lot of national Washington fans because they've sucked for like 20 years. And also, the whole Redskins thing. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and we've seen all their home games are like 70% empty. Like when we played there the first week, the stadium was 30%, 35% empty, apparently, according to some people. So just is really funny. I hope Washington's able to win that game. Weirdly, I think they've won like 4 games in a row, if I'm not mistaken. So getting hot at the right time, the Washington football team.
Yeah, my coach of the year and Super Bowl dark sleeper back in the day. Those candidates are coming up. And you need to win here, because if they win and then the Chiefs win tomorrow night, you get my record for game picks.
Hey.
And I think I'm going 3-0 this. Oh, tonight. Okay, well, before you go to bed, you'll know if you're a winner or not.
Hey, that would be just like the cherry on top of my weekend, man. I got the Utes going to the Rose Bowl. Chargers beat the Bengals. I would get to swap with Tyler for picks. It'd just be perfect, man.
For you.
Okay, I want to talk now about this running back 2 situation, because honestly, I have no fucking clue what to think and what to make of this situation. Justin Jackson plays 0 snaps last week. He played 5 the week before that. And then today he was the only non-Austin Eckler running back to touch the ball after having all 4 active. So if Justin Jackson is the RB2, great. I said pick one. If he's the one that they chose, great. I'm just so confused again by what this team is doing outside of Austin Eckler.
Do I even have a comment? I don't know what I'm supposed to say to this. Like, what are we doing? I mean, they won, so it worked, I guess.
Sure.
But like, And then they don't put it back in when they're up 16 and Eckler gets hurt potentially. So I have no words. It's a carousel. It's like a Russian roulette with 3 bullets or 4 bullets, and we just keep, whatever. And hopefully, I don't understand what the thought process is here. If Justin Jackson is now just an active guy for special teams, fine, I guess. But then he's the only one getting the ball today. So so he's also their special teams guy and their RB2. But Roundtree's active, and I don't think he plays. Kelly has 1 third down blitz pickup.
It was awful.
And it was awful.
So bad.
After leading the team with 16 snaps last week, I don't is this the preseason? Am I getting punked on what I'm paying to see every week when I go and pay for my season tickets? What are we I don't get it. How do you get into a rhythm at all? Look, whatever. I have nothing to say. I really have nothing to say. I have no idea what they're doing.
Yeah, I don't know. The RB2 situation at this point is the RB2 situation. And I mean, I've kind of been saying it from day one where I'm like, well, I don't think Larry Roundtree and Joshua Kelly are very good. And now we're still here talking about that. Was Darius Bradwell active today?
No, he wasn't.
No, he wasn't. So it was just, okay, so the 4 of them.
You must have had a bad week of practice.
Yeah, he must have had a bad week of practice. I don't know. At this point, I've talked about how on the pregame show, it's just like Brandon Staley, Two-Face, just flipping a coin before every game and seeing who gets carries where. Yeah. It wouldn't shock me if Justin Jackson got 0 carries next week, and it wouldn't shock me if he had 10 because Eckler's hurt. I really don't know at this point. I do technically think Justin Jackson probably is the second best running back on the team, but it's sort of by default because the other ones are bad. And he wasn't too impressive today either with 2.5 yards per carry. Did have a 7-yard run though, so that bold prediction did pay off when we were like one of them would get a 7-yard run that wasn't called back by a penalty, and it happened. So but yeah, the running back 2 situation is not great. They really need someone who can help Eckler at this point. Anyone. Trade for Adrian Peterson and go into win now mode. I don't know what the answer is. There's a lot of problems.
Did you see that the Seattle Seahawks scored a 73-yard touchdown on a fake punt?
No, I didn't see that.
I can only wish.
It was like their only good play of offense today. They snapped it directly to the personal protector, Homer, the backup running back, and he took it 73 yards to the house.
Is our only fake punt of the season when Tevon Campbell got blown up by Hunter Renfrow?
Yes,
that's correct.
That is correct.
Oh,
yes.
Geez.
So the running back situation is interesting. Oh, apparently the Raiders lost. So Washington football team helping us out a little bit. So good job. The running back situation is going to be really interesting this week because if Austin Eckler is not close to 100%, this is the game to sit him. You're going up against the Giants team who is pretty freaking bad. At this point, might be playing their practice squad quarterback because what's his name? The Glennon, the quarterback with the huge neck, is apparently in concussion protocol. So you're probably playing your practice squad third string quarterback against the Giants this week. So or for the Giants this week, excuse me. So if Austin Eckler is injured, this is the game to sit him. But then it's like, who do you give all the snaps to? Because you've never seen really any consistent play by any of them. But then again, that might be like their final opportunity to figure it out because they have to do something. They won today, but they needed to run the ball in that third quarter, in that second quarter, and they just couldn't. They didn't even try because they didn't have any faith in anybody. Austin Eckler is fumbling. So they have to figure out the running game going forward. And, we if they're going to make any kind of impact in the playoffs, they have to be able to run the football. And right now, outside of Austin Eckler, they just can't.
Daniel Jones plays like a backup third string practice squad quarterback all the time. So, I mean, is it really that different?
Daniel Jones has a neck injury for those who are not asking. And the fact that a neck injury gave way to Mike Glennon is honestly just hilarious.
I couldn't think of a good follow-up to that. Like a Linval Joseph and a belly injury. Nah, I couldn't do that. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, they're playing the Giants, so they could have a lead, and they could obviously figure it out with a lead. And if I'm testing anything out heading into Kansas City, I'll test that RB2. Let it just screw it. Eckler doesn't need to play. Eckler really doesn't need to play. Sign. Everyone says it differently. Ito, OT
I'm going
Smith.
with
Whatever.
Ito. I'm going with Ito Smith.
Whatever. Mr. Smith, sign him or something. I don't know. Just whatever.
Yeah, it's obviously going to be very interesting this week without Austin Eckler if he's not playing, because we've seen them be cautious. They were just cautious today with Joey Bosa. So if Austin Eckler didn't play next week, I think that would not be a surprise to me.
Was there a post-game update on what was wrong?
Oh, I don't think anybody asked about him. Honestly, I don't.
That's great. Nobody asked.
Yeah,
that's really good by our media members.
Yeah, everybody's saying it's Ito, so that's what I'm going with. Let's see. There were a couple of decisions by Brandon Staley, I think, today that are obviously we're talking about. Obviously, they went for 2. They tried to go for 2 and then brought the field goal unit or the PAT unit back out. They didn't have any opportunities to go for it on 4th down, did they, outside of the one where they were trying to like get them to jump off sides?
They went for the 4th down to score the touchdown to Allen.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
That was the first touchdown to Allen, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, and then
good decisions.
Also, the decision to challenge the Jared Cook.
That was so weird.
Yeah, I thought they pretty clearly got it, and then they were like, "Well, he stretched it when he was falling out of bounds." I'm like, but he was still in bounds when he stretched it. So, like, I don't know. So that seems like it should be the yardage, but yeah. So that challenge didn't work out, but I thought it was a decent challenge nonetheless to just kind of, see if you can get something out of that, and could have changed the game.
Can someone explain to me what the call was from the ref after the challenge, but wasn't the challenge, but then there was a timeout or a shift?
What the referee said is that they ruled it as forward progress was stopped, not that the play just ended. So I guess the referee, the side judge, ruled that when Jared Cook started his extension of the ball, that his forward progress was stopped. So forward progress is not a reviewable thing. Like, you can't challenge forward progress. It's different than just challenging the spot.
All right, well, the Chargers won, so I don't care.
Pretty much.
Oh, we're last.
I'm dying over here. Jeez.
It's okay.
I also thought it was really funny when the Bengals went for it. They went for 2. They called a timeout, and then they get a delay of game. Like, how do you get a delay of game call after a timeout on a 2-point conversion attempt?
I feel like that happened 7 times last year for the Chargers, though.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I was like, how do you let that happen? But also, we went through like 8 shows where that happened to the Chargers.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, any other takeaways here before we get into studs and duds?
Just building off of that, it's the Chargers being generally very ready to go either on 4th down or their 2-point conversions. They have a call in ready to go. They're more of an illegal shift problem team, but the call seems to always be that they are prepared for these situations. The Bengals are the complete opposite. They're like, I don't know, we should go for 2? Sure. And then they took a timeout and then delay of game, whatever. And then, what was the last thing that happened? Oh, yeah, Burrow was going to spike the ball before the half, but it drained 12 seconds. Yeah. I don't know, weird situational stuff, and it just didn't work out for them.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just thought this game was about the bounce back. I mean, Popper had that stat where they're 4-1 after a loss, 2-4 after a win. I swear to God, if we lose to the Giants next week, don't make it come to this. I cannot handle losing to them twice in 3 weeks. So yeah, no, we can't lose that game. But no, I just thought that this was a great effort from them to bounce back, shorthanded as they were. So yeah, that was my main takeaway from the game.
Yeah, and really just like bouncing back from within the game, right? Like, it's 24-22. Everybody on Twitter is losing their damn minds that this is the same old Chargers, and then they score 17 straight points after that. So Brandon Staley said that he felt like the defense won the day, and it really was. The touchdown that Tavon Campbell got, forced by Christian Covington. Gosh, I'm sorry, you guys.
Choking like the Bengals.
Do we need to put you in the protocol?
the COVID protocols.
Sorry.
Steven is vaccinated, so if he tests negative for the
Yeah.
next 48 hours twice, I think he'll be okay. So
Yeah, it's
Then we'll
not
bring in
COVID.
Arjun for 48 hours.
No, I went back to Utah for Christmas. We were in Park City. I was not prepared for the cold that was there. And
you
then I
weren't
got
prepared for the cold in Park City, Utah in December?
No,
Or
because on
November?
the freaking on my freaking phone it said that it was gonna be 50 degrees, and it wasn't. It was much colder. So I
Gotcha.
did not pack warm enough and got sick, and I've been coughing all week. All right, before we
Echo's
get
been
to
coughing
studs,
lately too. Sorry.
yeah, that's okay. All right, let's get into studs and duds before we wrap this up. We'll take some questions after that as well. Tyler, who is your stud of the day?
Ooh, stud of the day. I feel like I go a different couple ways with this, but I said Uchenna Nwosu, and I'm gonna stick with it. Yeah. I know everyone's like, why don't you say Justin Herbert? Like, we could. I get it, but I want to give credit to other people. And Uchenna Nwosu stepped up. Like I said, he had 2 sacks. It's probably gonna end up with 6 pressures or so. He stepped up when Bosa was out, and that's huge. It could have been Nwosu is just good because Bosa's there, sort of thing. But all the attention, in theory, should have been on him, and he had 2 sacks. Apparently he saved a touchdown when Chase was wide open too. So, hey, kudos to him. He stepped up. He's really heated up over the last few games. It's helped Bosa quite a bit. It's helped his defense, at least the front, 4 or 5 guys or whatever. They look a lot better. And listen, if he heats up and keeps this up and they don't have to sign an edge rusher, they just re-sign Nwosu, or they don't have to take an edge rusher in the first round, which I still think they might have to, either way, signing or drafting. But if he does 2 sacks a game and is wrecking games like this to finish the year, hey, one last thing. Maybe you could go wide receiver in the first round. I don't know.
Yeah, and Brandon Staley said afterwards that he felt like, or he's always felt like, Uchenna Nwosu was built to play this kind of scheme, built to play for them. Give a shout out to Jay Rogers, who's been consistently coaching him up. So I think that's a good call. Alex, I'll let you go next. I think I know where you're going to go here, but who's your stud of the day?
Yeah, I'll let Steven take Justin Herbert. I'm going to give it to Jalen Guyton. We have to give it to Jalen Guyton, friend of the show, for coming on. I think after all the questions about his usage of this season, him having this kind of game, particularly on those RPO looks, the shots were there for him. He took advantage of them, and that's all you wanted. We were kind of questioning, like, who's the real wide receiver 3 on this team? Is it Guyton? Is it Palmer? Is it Andre Roberts? Are they going to use him? I don't know. No one can really say who the RB3 or who the wide receiver 3 was, but I thought that Jalen Guyton stepped up clutch this game, as well as Uchenna Nwosu, and who Steven I assume is going to say is Justin Herbert. But yeah, no, this was a big bounce back game for him. Didn't have any drops that I saw, had a couple clutch plays. So just kept the ball moving and kind of going off of his Denver effort where he converted that 4th and 2. I think he's kind of gaining a little bit of momentum. So I'll be curious to see where this takes him. And yeah, great performance from him. They sorely needed, I think, a 3rd wide receiver to step up and take the pressure off of Keenan and Mike for sure.
If Jalen Guyton can do this once a game, twice a game, and have these kind of plays, it just opens up so much more for this offense. So I'm actually not going to go with Justin Herbert. I'm going to go with a Shaq saying here, Shaquille O'Neal, of course, and I'm going to give the stud of the day to the others, as he likes to say. So
I like it.
I'm going to give this award in general to Chris Rumpf, Joe Gaziano, Andre Roberts, the other guys on this team. The return that opened the game from Andre Roberts really set the Chargers up nicely to have that first touchdown drive. You get really good contributions from Chris Rumpf, Joe Gaziano, like I said, Tavon Campbell, Christian Covington. So we've needed these other players to really step up around the Charger stars, and I think they did that. So studs of the day, just a collective others for me.
I like that. And it really felt like that. They needed, I think Nwosu maybe had the best game on defense he's not really an other, but others stepped up, and they needed that so bad. I'm so happy that they did.
I'm just going to get this out of the way. We love Justin Herbert. We love Mike Williams. We love Brandon Staley. Whole team, we love you. There's only 3 spots. So, but yeah, just the comments. I do like Justin Herbert. I don't want any confusion.
Right. Yeah, I think this was a game that we expect this out of Justin Herbert, right? He played really, really well. We expect that. His shot plays today were fantastic. He had a couple underthrows that I think he would like to have back, like Alex mentioned earlier, but generally speaking, he was fantastic. So someone said stud of the day is the Gak bump. Yeah, shout out to Jalen Guyton again.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, Herbert had a tackle. He had a 2-point
He
conversion,
did.
plenty of touchdowns, all that good stuff. I mean, that was a good tackle too. Like I think we've seen Rivers take out a Cowboys defender on one play a long time ago. But yeah, that was a pretty solid tackle from Herbert.
He did. It was a great tackle from him. So
did he have more tackles this game than Kenneth Murray? Hold on.
So wait. So Herbert threw 3 touchdowns. He had the 2-point conversion and the tackle. I mean, yeah. He was an all-around complete player today.
About as good as a day, yeah. All right, let's get into some duds of the day. Unfortunately, there wasn't a ton that went wrong in this game, but
there's a lot that went wrong in this game.
Well, in comparison to last week and the week before that, I feel
that
like
is true.
A ton of stuff that went wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I will say just before we get to duds that, like, in general, although it was 24-22, and this may be because I watched the game on tape delay, I felt less bad about this game and the blown lead than I would say the Steelers game and the way that they blew that one and still won. Just because that was what did they allow 27 straight points or something like that in that one. So yeah, I felt that since he was kind of due for some and they got it. So, obviously you don't like the defense. Oh God, we already got Tillery comments. Yeah, no, I would just say, overall, I felt less bad about potentially collapsing this game. Obviously, never good when you give up a 24-point lead, but
sure.
The game felt more in control. I don't know.
Yeah, I would generally agree with that statement. I think, you have a bad quarter in the second quarter, and really outside of that, it is what it is. Like, was not comparable to the Steelers or last week, in my opinion. Last week, I think the defense in general just played with so much more energy this week than last week. And I felt that watching the film, I was just like, man, like this defense is just not fully engaged for whatever reason. And this week, I feel like they were. So the other day for me has to be Austin Eckler. I know he left injured and I hate to kick a man when he's down, but last week he had the drop that led to a pick 6. This time he had the fumble that nearly led to a fumble 6, had another fumble. Just was not a great day from him, and you could tell that it affected him. Like he just did not have the same kind of juice that he normally has, and it really just wore on him. And you could tell. He mentioned earlier this week that he is generally more worn down. So maybe giving him the week off this week while he deals with this injury might be best for him, because he just didn't look like the same explosive player that we're used to seeing. I know he scored the 1 touchdown. But just not a great day from Austin Eckler today, as unfortunate as it is.
Yeah, it's a little concerning. I think the drops kind of can happen. The fumbles aren't really his thing, so I don't expect that to be. And they were pretty good, like plays by the defense forced it too. Like it wasn't just kind of like awful. But yes, no, he is a dud for that. We had 2 interceptions off of Eckler's hands since the bye. One against the Patriots, the pick 6 last week. And granted, maybe some of that's, maybe the throw wasn't that great to Eckler, but, it's a bit concerning, but I don't expect him to have those issues. I don't know. There weren't really like a ton of duds. I pointed out in the chat that Campbell and Davis gave up a combined 13 catches on 16 targets for 149 yards. They got the prayer lucky interception where the hand of God put that back in Michael Davis's hands.
Chase had like 3 drops today, didn't he?
Yeah. He at least had 2. He definitely had 2. And he definitely had 1. Which was huge, almost a game changer. So they're kind of duds. Like it's picky because he only gave up so far, 1 sack, another pressure, and then a holding penalty. But like Matt Filer didn't have a great game. I expect more from him. It wasn't like I don't know how terrible it was. There's some costly moments, and the fact that he had a holding call and gave up a sack, and it was very close to each other. I'm like, oh, Senor Calamete. As a joke, no one he's much better than that. Don't get me wrong. But yes, it was his best Senor Calamete impression. But again, right now it only has him at 2 pressures, one of them being a sack.
Yeah,
like that's not that bad.
That's not that bad. Can I retroactively give another dud to Senor Clemente for last week again? Can I give him 2 weeks?
Sure, I'll give him 1 too. You know what? Let's triple down.
The top 1% of Senio Clementes are stealing all the duds that we're giving out. I mean, it's really a problem. No, I would just say, yeah, I think my dud of the game has to go to Michael Davis. Just given what my expectations were for him this year, not that he would become this all-pro, all-star corner. But I did feel that, like, okay, well, last year was clearly a turning point. He had some games against some, very clear top receivers in this league, including Stephon Diggs. And I just felt like this would kind of be the turning point year. Now he is still coming off of that hamstring injury, so I don't know how much is affecting him in terms of his foot speed and how he looks. Can everyone help me? Ratio Orlovsky on Twitter. Saw that. Yeah, but no, I just felt like Michael Davis has to kind of play better for the secondary to work. Obviously, Derwin James covers up a lot of problems for this team. But yeah, I just wanted to see better play from him, particularly because they can't rely on Devon Campbell. And although they got a good Chris Harris game today, they can't really rely on Chris Harris from week to week either. So I have to give him kind of my dud of the day. As far as Filer, I did think he looked a little rough out there, but also having injured Matt Filer over Senio Kelemete is like still such a massive upgrade that like it allowed them to run offense properly. So, I'll give that to Matt Filer still. But yeah, no, I definitely think Michael Davis could have played better. And yeah, you can kind of give one to Devon Campbell too, but I don't want to be too mean because I already gave a dud to Devon Campbell this season. So
yeah, I think Campbell is like what you expect him to be, and it's hard to make him the dud when he did score the touchdown. Like even though it was an easy touchdown, like he still did it. Like he still did his job. But Michael Davis, outside of the one pass breakup, which the Pandasaurus Rex mentioned in the chat, like that was a really great pass breakup. But you mentioned earlier, it just felt like he was a step slow today, and it felt like that last week too. Watching the game back on tape, like I just feel like he is either still dealing with that hamstring injury or he's not as engaged. I don't really know what to make of the whole situation. I would love to get like a legitimate answer from one of the coaches about this because he's definitely not the same player. Daniel Popper has mentioned that he's been inconsistent, but outside of the pass breakup, I don't feel like we've seen him make like a ton of good plays the last few weeks ever since he came back. So I don't know. It's just a weird situation. Obviously, you hope that he would be playing better because he is like their press man corner. Like he is the one who you absolutely need him to kind of control the rest of the secondary, because that's like you have to be able to shut off one side of the field in this kind of defense, and he's just not doing that. He had a great interception in terms of like hand-eye coordination, but if that's a better ball by Joe Burrow and a better catch by Jamar Chase, then we're talking about a 70-yard touchdown as opposed to an interception that changed the game in favor of the Chargers.
Yeah, could have used that for my fantasy team. It feels like injuries, even though they're kind of off the injury report, like Drew Tranquil, like he got hurt and there was COVID and he came back and he really didn't have a lot of impact plays really up until today. Like they've tried blitzing him. All the sort of the same stuff is there. We saw him against the Raiders, just destroying the offense of the Raiders. And then it just kind of lost him after the bye because of the injury, because of the COVID situation. So I'm hoping, he's kind of building back up. Maybe Davis is more hurt than we think. He's building back up. Maybe Filer's more hurt than we think. He's building back up. So hopefully these guys can kind of get away from their injuries. But yeah, a little concerning from Davis, a guy who before the bye shut down Darren Waller. Like he shut down Darren Waller. And now it's like, granted, Chase is not he's a very good player. Don't get me wrong. And again, my fantasy team appreciates that quite a bit. But yeah, hopefully things are better next week. I think next week will be a really good game for the secondary to get right.
Thomas asking about the Jomo package. I didn't see Brendan Hymus out there. I'm pretty sure it was just Quessenberry and then the tight ends, if I'm not mistaken. Did either of you see Hymus out there?
I wouldn't have been looking.
Well, I know that Quessenberry
it's up to you, man.
Yeah, I know that Quessenberry was up there.
I thought I heard at one point that the announcer said number 79. I think that might have been Pipkins if he was in. I'm not sure. That might have been him. Or maybe I'm remembering it being number 79 for the Bengals. I'll go Google that and see if there is one on the Bengals just to make sure.
I definitely do not remember them calling a ton of jumbo packages this week. It was like I know that Questenberry was in on the touchdown, but I don't think that they called many other ones with multiple offensive or with that extra offensive lineman in there.
Well, you await your breakdown, Steven.
I hope we're getting closer for Brendan Hymas to play. Brandon Staley said we are on Friday. I hope that's true. I hope that's not a bunch of bullshit, but yeah, we'll see, I guess.
We've heard some bullshit this year for sure. As far as pressures allowed, so Norton 3 and a sack, Slater and Filer 2, each of them with a sack. No, they gave Norton credit for that sack, I would guess.
Yeah.
Lindsley Schofield 0. Yeah. So
I'm gonna be surprised if I go back and watch this game and I see Schofield giving up 0 pressures. I'm just gonna say that.
What? I don't know. Listen. Out of curiosity, do you think you tend to give them more pressures or less when you watch them? Calamente was more. That's the biggest jump I've seen. That was bad.
I was probably a little mean to him. I feel like I tried to lean, I tried to lean more nice, if that makes sense. Because there was one game.
10 was nice. Oh god.
No, I was mean. I was mean to Senyo.
Oh,
for
okay.
Sure. Because there were like 3 stunts that the Broncos did that could have been him or Slater or Lindsley, and I was just like, "Fucking give it to Calamente's ass."
Nice, the real objective pro football focus thing that we're going for here.
But I feel like I generally try to lean more nice on the offensive line breakdowns. Defensive line stuff, I try to be, if you like really beat a guy or get beat if you're the offensive lineman, then I generally give you a pressure, like even if you don't, affect the quarterback. Like there was one time 2 weeks ago when I was watching the Steelers game, like Joey Bosa just whooped Dan Moore, but Big Ben was leaking out of the pocket already by the time Bosa got past him. But I was like, okay, like that's a pressure to me because you just destroyed your assignment. So I feel like there definitely is some give and take there.
Very nice. Okay, I'm gonna get rid of this person. Hello, or you can leave it. But yeah, I think I'll get rid of this person.
I'm just laughing at anytime it goes back to Steven. He has a cough.
I know. I'm dying over here, you guys. I didn't bring any water up today because I feel like the more I talk, the more I have to cough, and I didn't bring any water, so it was completely my bad. Off-season trade Bosa. The hell? We watching a different team? Like, what is this?
Joey Bosa, if you give him credit for that Viking sack, and I do, because I think he generated that sack, basically that sack fumble against Cousins. Is it like 4 straight weeks with a sack and probably 20 pressures or so? 20-something pressures the last 4 weeks? Nah, I'm not trading Bosa. Come on.
Like, we just saw Unwosu and Normfed their best games of his life. Like, Joey Bosa, if he had not left early, he probably would have had 7, 8, 9 pressures, a sack or 2. Like, he would have had a big game for today for sure.
Yeah.
What do we think about Jerry Tillery? What kind of game do you think he had? Because I saw moments, and we definitely agree that there were moments. Yeah. But what do you think about his game overall?
I thought he was decent. I mean, I'd have to watch back at the L22 to kind of really see, but there were, he had a couple QB hits, a couple pressures. Compared to what we had seen from him, if he can at least be a positive in that way, then I think it's fine for what his role is on this team. So yeah, I thought he was probably better against the run today. I mean, he wasn't getting blown up as much. Granted, again, like I said, the best Chargers run defense is getting out to a 24-0 lead. Yes. So, I mean, that definitely contributes to it. So I wouldn't say he's a good run defender at all at this point, but it seems like he did okay this week. Would have to watch more to see.
I feel like he was okay. Like, it's so hard for me to sit there and watch him because there are times where I'm like, damn, that was a really good rep. And then it's other times where he's 7 yards down the field, and I'm like, what the hell is happening here? Yeah. So he, I feel like he was fine. I'm not expecting Tillery to come together and have a great game anymore. I just think as long as he's not completely wrecking the game, then it is what it is.
Yeah. So I think between last week and this week, his percent of snaps played dropped by about 12%.
Yeah.
Which is could have been a lot more, I think, if Justin Jones had not gotten hurt.
Right.
Joey Bosa didn't get hurt if Linval Joseph was in. So, for him to drop 12% even with those injuries is pretty significant.
Yeah. So apparently the Steelers won. They beat the Ravens. So, man, the AFC is I think this means that the Patriots are in second place right now.
They have to be.
Or maybe
Big
even first place.
I think the Bills still have it.
No, they're ahead of the Bills. They're ahead of the Bills.
Well, that'll be decided tomorrow night, right? I mean,
sure.
Yeah, by the Monday night game. So we'll see.
Yeah.
But AFC, who knows?
Who knows? All right, so we'll take some questions for a few minutes here, and then we'll wrap it up. Gosh, I can't stop coughing.
Hit us with some super chats to celebrate us getting Jalen Guyton involved. We did that. The GAC bump is real, so give us some bumps for the GAC bump.
Yeah, so look, someone's got to pay for Steven's medical bills. The antibiotics and stuff, they're going to cost quite a bit. We need some cough drops, Kleenex, all that sort of thing. So, fire in the super chats. Help out Steven. He's putting in a good show, and he needs our help.
We're going to have to quarantine him from the offensive line breakdown this week.
I got flipped off by Steven. I don't think I've ever had been flipped off by Steven. Alex flips me off 3 times a show. I don't think Steven's ever flipped me off.
I don't think Steven has ever flipped you off. Wow.
I didn't even know I was watching for a second there. Wow, no kidding.
I remember the first time I cussed on here, Tyler and Jason were like, whoa, Steven must have I was like, okay.
And then I think halfway through the season, you're like, shit, piss, fuck, all this shit. Like, as soon as the Lynn era came through, you were like, just beep. It was
and the Broncos and the Patriots games happened, and then we got just like unleashed Steven.
I'm just so glad that I don't have to go back and watch the worst offensive line performance of the season again this week, because that Broncos film was pissing me the hell off.
Yeah. This isn't so Gaziano is on the active roster. He's not going back to the practice squad unless they activate Joseph. I assume that's a Fahoko thing, not a Gaziano thing.
Yeah, because like the way that we've seen this defense, I mean, maybe we'll see what happens with Justin Jones, how long that injury keeps him out. But basically what we've seen is that they prefer to have 2 nose tackle types and then 3 tech / defensive end types. So that's obviously Gaziano, Tillery, and Jones. And then you have either Joseph and Covington or Fahoko and Covington. So they could certainly pivot and keep 6 defensive linemen. But I do expect them to cut Braden Fahoko once Linval Joseph is back off the COVID list, unfortunately, for everyone involved, because I think Braden Fahoko is really, coming into a solid role player right now.
Whatever it takes to get the RB4s on the roster or Neighbors. So Neighbors is now below RB4. He's obviously, he's a fullback, sure, but like, I don't understand what his role is at this point.
The only way that on brisket duty.
Yeah. Yeah. The only way Neighbors really plays to me is if Steven Anderson or Trey McKitty are hurt or not, or inactive or something.
Got one from Curtis Davis here. Thank you for the super chat. Out of all our potential free agents, who would y'all bring back, and who is on y'all's bubble?
I think for sure you want to bring Kaiser White back. You want to bring Linval Joseph back. Steven Anderson back. I would have to go look at this because the list is pretty long. I think they have 30 players this year.
I have the spot track list in front of me, so once we get to a certain point on this list, it probably wouldn't be worth talking about. What would you guys want to bring Kimon Hall back? Like, I don't know, but Linval Joseph, obviously, I think you want to try to bring him back in some way. Although that kind of feels like a Telesco let him walk move to me, but I don't know. Chris Harris, you're not bringing back just because of age. Mike Williams, depends on what the market is. Although, I mean, he had a really great game today. Jared Cook, no. Odebushi, yes. Ryan Smith, probably not. Kyler Fackrell, maybe. Uchenna Nwosu, I mean, at this point.
I think Nwosu is trending yes for me.
Yeah, I think
Yes.
Nwosu's
Not as a
trending yes.
starter,
Right.
but he's trending yes for me.
Also, his value is not going to be like super high. I don't see someone like breaking the bank for Uchenna Nwosu
Sure.
necessarily. So, I mean, like you can probably have him back at a pretty reasonable rate. Other than that, it's like Steven Anderson. Yeah, I'd want him back on the team. Justin Jones, obviously. And then you get to Kaiser, and I think Kaiser has to be back because he's playing linebacker one. And yeah, then you get to like Justin Jackson. No.
No.
So yeah, I mean, you can kind of flip around the roster and create all these possibilities, but ultimately, I feel like everything's still kind of up in the air, as opposed to a few key players that they're probably going to cut and move on from, like Brian Balaga and Chris Harris.
Yeah, I think for me, as Michael Lopez points out, for me, priority number one this offseason is give Derwin James a blank check. Whatever he wants, that's cool with me. That's priority number one. And number two for me, honestly, is give Kaiser White an extension. I think he's been so good for this team. He has absolutely earned, a big payday to come back. I think Daniel Popper said in his was it the live Q&A or mailbag? I can't remember. One of the segments he did, he was projecting like 4 for 32 or something like that. I think that seems kind of like the baseline at this point, but bringing Kaiser White back is priority number 2 for me.
Yeah, the biggest question really is Mike Williams.
Right.
It's so difficult. It's so up and down. First 3 games, absolutely. After that, and really up until not even really the Eagles game, like the Browns game was some busted coverage. Even the Steelers game was some busted coverage. Like it's tough. It's really tough because some of his biggest plays have been against busted coverage. So, but today it felt like a really good, not a busted coverage. Like he made the plays himself. So
yeah,
that's a tough one. You're gonna have to ask me in March because I really don't know right now. It's very hard to tell. But unless they can get him for cheap, because they potentially could have him for a lot cheaper. The wide receiver market potentially being a lot less expensive this offseason. So we'll see. It is also kind of their all-in year. And do they want to replace him and switch to somebody else in an all-in year? I don't know.
I mean, it could make sense for this team to sign Cedric Wilson or like a lower tier receiver, somebody, Damian Parsons, who we interact with quite a bit. Mentioned Michael Gallup. Like, I think that would be a cheaper alternative than signing Mike Williams. I think Davante Adams is a complete pipe dream. I know nobody's going to want to hear that, but I am not expecting Davante Adams to be a Charger next year at all. So I think that there are, cheaper alternatives that they could do, and then maybe you draft a receiver in the second round, the third round. I'm not taking a receiver in the first round ever. I know a lot of people are enthralled by Jameson Williams right now, but to me, I think it just is smarter spending to do a lower tier free agent, and then you draft somebody in the second or third round to bring some speed. Maybe you bring back Jalen Guyton on a cheap deal as well. But I don't know. Like it's just going to be interesting because I can't imagine that they're going to want to, take more of Justin Herbert's support system after taking all of his support system essentially last year. So I could see them franchise tagging Mike Williams and then kind of playing that move next year. But I don't know. It's just going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, I wouldn't rule out a wide receiver in the first round, but we'll know in heading up to the draft what their role is. Like if Mike Williams is not on the team, I'm almost positive taking a wide receiver in the first round. The Chargers generally narrow down to 2 positions. You can basically figure it out from there. So, yeah, I don't know. But then, the Chargers were so close. I don't know how this draft class looks, but they were so close to, and I wouldn't pick these guys because I like Asante Samuel Jr. over these guys, but they were very close to Elijah Moore and Javonte Williams. Those 2 players look great. So, don't need a receiver running back in the first round. Obviously not a running back, but, I think they could find some later. Hopefully it's a receiver that fits the skill set that Herbert has rather than Josh Palmer, but different than Josh Palmer.
Yeah, I would just say as far as running backs, like I wouldn't take one in the first round, but other than that, everything's kind of on the table for me. If Mike Williams walks, I wouldn't be outraged if they drafted a receiver in the first round. I think I'd be kind of fine with it, depending on who the player is. I think cornerback is, sneakily becoming a potential first-round option.
Absolutely.
With a lot of the guys and the fact that teams across the league are taking cornerbacks higher now anyway. I wouldn't be surprised if that's an option, although I don't think Sauce Gardner will drop that far, which makes me sad. But
I don't think Sauce is going to be in the 20s.
No, I think he's going to go before. I think he's going to be the first one after Stingley. But yeah, I think he's going to go pretty high. Yeah, no, as far as Mike Williams, I still kind of remain neutral on that one just because he does have these games and he also does have the Mike Williams from 2020 games where there is kind of dumb stuff and drops. So I'm still kind of undecided on that one, but it very much depends on what his market is.
Yeah, I think the way things are trending for me, I'm spending money on a running back 2, and I'm spending money at the edge rusher position, maybe the receiver position. Like I said, obviously, if you're bringing Mike Williams back, then that need goes down. So I think the way things are trending for me, corner and right tackle should be the first 2 picks. And I think same as last draft, you just kind of flip it.
Yeah, so, corner is an interesting one. Again, I do prefer trenches, but if you look at Moses pass rush win rate, Fackrell's pass rush win rate, which is higher than in Moses, they're up there. They're just not getting the production. So if you think that the lack of production is because you need a corner, then I'm all for it. But again, Chargers are currently in the playoff push, so we'll figure it out later.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll dive into the offseason when it becomes that time. For now, hopefully you look at the next week's game against the Giants as a big opportunity to kind of create some separation, and then you have a Thursday night football game against the Chiefs. So, Alex, final thoughts before we head out for the day, and then Tyler after that.
Do not lose to the Giants next week. I won't be able to handle all this flip-flopping on the podcast every week. We need a win streak for the algorithm. But anyway. No, I thought this was a really great win for the Chargers. Everyone kind of counted them out, including us. I just thought, you looked at it and said Joe Mixon on paper. You looked at Joe Burrow on paper. Obviously, Burrow unfortunately gets hurt in this game, which kind of took away from the Burrow-Herbert mystique of it. But, I thought they played really well this game, and the defense stepped up when they needed to. When the offense was kind of floundering a little bit in the second half, they came up big and had some key takeaways. Pressured the hell out of Joe Burrow, especially considering what the state of the Cincy offensive line was. So I thought they did a really good job, and really credit to Brandon Staley for kind of shifting up the looks on the defense a little, giving Cincinnati something to chew on. And I think he's kind of one of the stars of this game, in addition to kind of the studs and duds that we did. And so they just kind of got to get a little bit of a win streak going. I think I'd feel much more comfortable at 8-5 than and this was a must-win game for them too. Like I think that we would have talked about the Chargers falling out of the playoffs potentially entirely if they had lost this game, and then you're like a game or 2 games behind the winner of tonight's Sunday night football game. Plus you lost wild card tiebreakers, so that would have been huge. So I thought that this was a really great game for the Chargers to rebound. I think they needed this one on the road, and hopefully it gives them some momentum going forward.
Yeah, hoping moving forward they're less reactionary a little bit and they're more preemptive with things, whether that be not having Calamete out there and then making him the 3rd string guard the next week and just letting Hymus be that guy, or the interior defensive line rotation. Like it worked on Sunday Night Football, then they go back to Tillery and they go, oh wait, that didn't work. Let's go back to these guys. So I wish they were kind of more ahead of it rather than behind, but it seems like they're starting to figure things out. Even Chris Rumpf now, who's like, oh, well, maybe we should have given him more edge rusher snaps. Granted, he wasn't really productive before that time, but he's getting more, and his involvement today was big. So hopefully they do more of that. But it was a big win. The Chargers had lost today, a whole different podcast and a whole different rest of the year. And instead we get to keep enjoying football. We get to be excited about this team. And for, the rest of the year or until the next time they play, we can say that Justin Herbert is better than Joe Burrow. I believe that coming in anyway, but it's kind of nice to be able to say my quarterback beat the other quarterback. So it feels pretty good. I like where we're at right now. And yeah, they'll beat the Giants. And it's a big game against the Chiefs.
Actually, that's not what Dan Orlovsky says. He says the tape showed that Joe Burrow was the
oh, that's right. That's right.
So, you're wrong on that one. Yeah.
I love how everyone's like, if he's like, oh, I don't really like Joe Lombardi, and everyone's like, see, the NFL quarterback said that he doesn't like Joe Lombardi. It must be true. And then he says that Herbert didn't play as well as Burrow, and he's like, oh my god, what an idiot! He watched it. Like,
right.
where are we standing on this one, guys?
Dan Orlovsky walked out of the end zone, and he goes on First Take every day to just show his whole ass to the whole world. Like, can you stop with Dan Orlovsky? Like, I'm sick of this guy.
My favorite thing too about that too is like he says, "Oh, the tape shows differently." What tape, my guy? Because the All-22 doesn't get released until tomorrow. Like even for NFL,
the tape shows me that you're the only quarterback in NFL history who voluntarily walked out of the end zone. All right, so just get off your high horse. Stop criticizing quarterback play, and you know what? Just get off of ESPN. I'm sick of you.
There we go. Well said, Alex. My final thoughts here, the defense really won the day for me. I thought the offense kind of, obviously they bounced back and it was great to see, but this is generally the most excited I've been to watch the defensive tape. Like I really cannot wait to see what they're doing on these blitz calls and things like that. So I'm really excited to watch the defensive tape. I was really pleased with the way that they played. Like I said, I gave the studs of the day to the others. And so it was a great game to see. Slee 787 was at the game, said he lost his voice. So there was a lot of Chargers fans there. Like this, I feel like this was probably the best away game turnout that we've seen. That video of Justin Herbert, running around high-fiving everybody was great to see. So shout out to anyone who was at that game. But just in general, I thought the defense was fantastic. And I'm hoping that this is, a building block performance for them, because we've seen the defense be very up and down in terms of stopping the run, in terms of making plays. And this was a 4 turnover game, holding Joe Mixon to 2.8 yards per carry. This is about as good of a game as you could possibly draw up for the defense. And no Joey Bosa, no Linval Joseph, no Justin Jones. So it was just great to see. So that's going to do it for us today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will be going live on Thursday to preview the Giants game, and I'll be posting an interview earlier than that, so stay tuned for those. As always, like the show, subscribe to the channel, leave a rating or review on the podcast platform of your choice, and thank you guys so much for your support. We'll see you next time.